Well, hello there, humans, bees, earthlings, wherever you are, whatever you're doing, and if you're lucky enough indeed to be doing it too. I'm Bushka Blitz. Welcome back to the channel. If this is your first time here, well, lucky for you. This is the T43. It's a funny one. I've actually done a couple of reviews lately, M4 being the one that happened from the last stream, and this one happened on the most recent NA stream, where I've kicked off the review, the stream, and the first game I've played in the tank that was requested by the patron or the sponsor of the channel was an absolute cracker and inspired me to do a video on the tank. Both times they were in tanks that I hadn't driven for an absolute age, but which I'd always really loved. And this is, I hope it becomes par for the course. I don't know if it's going to become a standard thing, but I'd really like it to. This T43 video is going to feature probably the best game I've ever played in a 43 at the end of it, which is pretty sweet. So watch on if you want to see an amazing game in the T43 right at the end, and please do enjoy. Now, the 43 has always been pretty spectacular. The Comet for mine has been the best money can buy medium in the game for a long while, and then a lot of different tanks came in. Like, we've now got, I think, 13 or 14 tier 7 mediums in the game, and that's a lot of tanks, whereas originally you'd have like a T43, a Comet, a T20, and that was pretty much it. Like, you started off with just the 3 lines. Oh, and of course a Panther 1. And the Comet came a little bit later, and it was a great tank too. The 43 was never the nuts out best damage per minute kind of tank that you could find in the game. It just wasn't, but it was very good. And it was never the best gun depression tank that you'd find in its tier. It just wasn't, but it was still good and reasonable. And it didn't have the best mobility in its tier, but it had pretty good mobility. And that has remained true. It's one of these tanks that is pretty much balanced right across the board at, if not the top of the tree for that statistic, then right up there where the eagles fly. The only thing it does lack is pen. Its pen is not good, but no, it should be noted, there's not a whole lot of tier 7 mediums that have good pen. It does have one thing that is actually pretty cool, and that's its armor profile. It's so Russian. What do I mean by that? Well, I'm going to show you in just a short while the armor profile on the tank. But suffice to say that a lot of the Russian tanks feature this same kind of mechanic where you want to angle the tank up pretty hard and keep the upper glacis as almost like a shield or a bouncy zone, so that you can stop shots from going in and get the occasional bounce. And I'm going to show you using Armor Inspector, which is a wonderful tool, and if you don't have it on your iPad, etc., you probably bloody well should. It does have 8 degrees of gun depression and all that, and we'll get to that in a tick, and I'll get to exactly why I think it's such a great tank. But first of all, let's have a look at Armor Inspector. And I'm going to show you the tank in comparison to the Comet. So the Comet is the tank that's shooting at you, and the T43 is here. Now, this is like a real-time Armor Inspector. This is the kind of thing you'd see in the game. The red is where you're not going to bounce. You're going to bounce, you won't pen, and the clear spots are where you're going to pen. Now, the Comet only has like 144 millimeters of pen, 145 millimeters of pen on its AP, so the armor profile is not particularly good, and it's not good really anywhere on the tank. Where it does get a little bit of joy, and by the way, thank you, Andrew Karpushin is the guy who figured this thing out. You can see there is some info on the left of screen if you want to go back and have a look at that, which actually shows the guys who work on this project, because Armor Inspector is a vital tool. I bought it long ago. It's well worth getting. You can see that upper glacis, it's all red, and because you've got 8 degrees of gun depression, you can angle it up. Now, you're getting bounces there a lot of the time because it becomes an auto bounce zone. That's for AP rounds over 69 degrees, you're going to get an auto bounce. Heat works a little bit differently. I did a video recently, someone correctly pointed out that heat does work a little bit differently. It normalizes against, I don't want to go into that now, but suffice to say, I don't want to go off on a tangent on armor and shell mechanics, but if you can angle up that upper glacis, you'll get some bounces, okay? Because it's very nimble and it's very quick at getting backwards and forwards. And when you're playing against same tier tanks, you can move it backward and forward pretty comfortably and do the job. And you can see the angle I'm setting on this tank straight away is going to make it a lot easier for me to get bounces and also cover up the weakest part of my armor profile, which is the side and the hull of the tank, and it allows me to come backwards and forwards, as is my want, without really taking a lot of risk. So what's so good about this tank that I think it's probably right up there in terms of the best medium in its tier? Well, it doesn't have any real weak points. Your penetration is good enough that you can deal with same tier tanks. There's no qualms about that. Your gun depression is such that you can get shots off in positions like this, even when you're slightly angled up the hill. You can see there. Your mobility is excellent. Your terrain resistance numbers. Now I'll run through one more time terrain resistance for those of you who don't understand what terrain resistance is. You've got 3 stats that govern your tank's mobility in the game. They're hidden stats, you don't see them in the tech tree or anything. They are your coefficients on soft, medium and hard terrain, right? The lower these numbers, the better. So for instance, the Comet would have a terrain resistance of 1 on hard terrain, 1.1 on medium terrain, and 1.5 on soft. So that takes your horsepower, your traverse, everything into account, shoves it down, and then runs it through that coefficient to get the numbers. The 43 has 0.9 on hard, 1.1 on soft, and 1.3 on medium, which is actually better than the Comet. And it's better than most of the mediums that you're going to find at your tier, or at least on a par with them. Coupled with that is you've got 19.13 horsepower per ton. So you've actually got a pretty good horsepower to ton output. Your ratio is very good. You're not the Dracula, which is the most stupid horsepower per ton tank in the game at 40.01, but we're not going to get into the Drac. He hardly counts as anything other than a broken tank. And the Edelweiss is another one that a lot of people don't realise is right up there at nearly 25 horsepower per ton. Then you've got the Comet at 22 horsepower per ton. And then you start running the tanks like the T20, the T34-85 Rudy, the T43. There's a lot of tanks around that 20 to 19 range. But you couple that with a very, very good terrain resistance stat, and you get a tank that can move and shake. And your traverse is obviously pretty good as well. You, with all the bells and whistles, all the buffs, this thing does 70.41 degrees of traverse per second. So you are agile, you are nimble, you're literally quite the little Russian ballet dancer. You are dancing the Fagovsky at the Bolshoi and doing it in style and class. With style and class, not in style and class. Idiot. Just your gun, while you've got 8 degrees of gun depression, allowing you to get shots off all the time, which is grand, and having very, very good DPM, like 2,600 damage per minute is good fully kitted out, as opposed to like a Comet, which gets up to nearly 2,900, but that's a close enough discrepancy that you can make a living with it. Your gun isn't particularly accurate, but you've got a fairly low aim time, 3.5 seconds. Why is the aim time important? Because it means that, well, you don't have to spend a whole heap of time waiting for the reticle to shrink. Now, 3.5 seconds is pretty much across the board your standard tier 7 medium aim time, and that's all well and good. Where the gun starts to sing is your alpha is 200. So while your DPM might be slightly under the Comets, you have an extra 25% alpha on top of a tank like the Comets. Any of the 75mm style guns that have a 160 alpha gun, you have an extra 40 alpha on top. Why is that a good thing? When you're taking a shot in a medium like this, and you're going to see here, you want to duck around the corner, you want to get your hit in, and then you pull back before they get that hit. The Comet would have hit that guy for 160, I hit him for 200, and then I pull back again. And so while they might get a little bit of extra burn, a little bit of extra sting in the tail when they're doing the business, you have the ability to dump a shot in and not take the same kind of risk. You don't have to spend as much time on target to deliver the payload as a tank like the Comet does, or the T43. That 200 alpha is really, really valuable in the scheme of things. It was a real joy to actually get a chance to rock and roll with this little... I always loved it. I just always loved this tank. I never drove it enough. I used to drive in because the Comet existed, and I love the Comet. It's so much gun depression, so much everything. But for all that, I mean, have a look at this thing hit. It just hits so nicely, and things stay hit, and it has so few faults. It's capable of just delivering and delivering and delivering and delivering time and time again. And I'm going to show you a last game here, which was an absolute monster. And if it wasn't for the Comet, I certainly would have driven this tank more than I would have driven anything else. That was a good game in and of itself, but this is the one that I wanted to show you. This is going the flank here with my good amigo XR Rob from and we're in Discord at the moment. This is in the patron-only North American stream where everyone jumps in the Discord. We do count-ins. We have a Reaper room at the end of it, and it's all a little bit silly, but it's a whole lot of fun. And you can see I'm a little bit worried here. We've got 3 tanks in town. They've got 1 tank in town. So we're facing 6 tanks, and we've got an IS-2 that's coming, but he is quite a ways away at the moment. So the first target to go has to be their T43. He's pushed around, and they were a little bit worried about this Tiger P. Going to start moving in and making some love with him. Our T43 is in all kinds of trouble. I've got a chance to get one more in here. There's that VK. XR Rob is pushing up on my right-hand side. I'm just using that whole angle up. You can see I've got the upper glacis angled, and then I'm going backwards and forwards, just trying to get shots in, trying to clear that VK at the back. And there comes a point in time where things are just a little bit tight, a little bit too hot and heavy, and you've got to move back. So I'm doing it now under the ridgeline of that IS. This Tiger P wants to get involved. We get a massive big roll there. We angle up as best we can and get the bounce. Now we want to get the clear on this VK. Excellent. So that's 2 tanks cleared. Going to take one from the Tiger P, but I think it was worth it to get that shot in. And then we're scapering, using that mobility again, trying to get away from the Tiger P before he can get around that corner and get the gun down. And he gets distracted. He's going for the low hit point target over there on our left, which unfortunately is our good amigo, the IS-2, who's pushed all the way through from town. Now you can see this tank is absolutely wonderful in terms of mobility. Its fire rate is very, very good for a 85mm gun, like really, really good. I think you're looking at over 12 rounds a minute, and XR Rob is doing a yeoman's effort here. We're going to try and clear this IS. There we go, set him on fire, clear him. That's 4 kills now as well, and now we're into the 23E3. He's got a big rate of fire and DPM. We want to clear him as much as possible. And you can see that mobility. We're just dancing around these guys. The on-the-move firing is very, very effective as well. Cleared another one, and it's now 2-on-1. Just this last Tiger 1 to go. We've pumped out an absolute buttload of damage. And while that is lovely, I do not want to get stuck one-on-one with a Tiger 1. He has the same kind of DPM I've got. He's got, if he's fully buffed up, don't run cowards, says the Tiger P. Seriously, General Zaragoza, seriously? Like, look what we've done so far. We've got 5 kills. We have never moved outside the firing line here. We've been hanging out in this neck of the woods the whole time. We're going to try and use this VK3601's hit point pool. I don't have a particularly huge amount of confidence. He's taken a long time to get there, so I'm going to try and run away a little bit here. Just keep this Tiger 1, T43 attack him. Mate, are you kidding me? Anyway, here we go. We're going to try and just angle and dangle, wait until the Tiger 1 pops on the radar screen again from this VK3601H, and then we're going to push in, use our DPM, use everything else. There we go. We found him. Happy days. Keeping the bush between him and me so that we don't get spotted up, and then we're going to run down there and just start pumping. Now, he's engaged that VK. Excellent. We can shoot, drop adrenaline, be a little bit more circumspect than that would be good. Excellent. Reversing up makes it a very hard shot for him. The VK has not hit him yet, right? And then he hits him for 145. I'm still a little bit wary here. Tiger 1 is an awfully good tank and doesn't get nearly the credit it deserves, but we've got him now in terms of the DPM stakes. Another one in. The Tiger 1, the VK doesn't clear him. We clear him. 6 damages, 6 kills. A whole lot of mobility, an awful lot of firepower, excellent gun depression to keep the gun in the game, 4,400 damage, mastery badge, top gun, high caliber, pulls. You know, me and XR Rob combining for about 4,500 damage there, for about 5,000 damage. Excellent stuff for us. I hope you enjoyed that video. I certainly loved getting a chance to play the old T43 again. It's a crackerjack vehicle. It's something that you can't ignore, and you should probably stick around and watch more of the live streams for that kind of action. Until next time, boys and girls, look after yourself. If you're going to Tank Fest, remember, I'm going to be over there in Bournemouth as well for that. Otherwise, just look after your family, your kids, your dog, all that kind of stuff, and stay safe on the battlefield. Bye for now.